Hello! Thank you, Harry, and thank you, everyone. I'm presenting a project today that is part of a process of research, a series of processes of research by the Migrant Ecologies Project that Harry mentioned, which I started in 2008 as a kind of umbrella for different kinds of explorations between art and ecology. To date, we've got 3 different kinds of themes in the research that we do together. It's a collaborative project. The one has to do with trees, wood, and humans. The second has to do with birdsong and memory. And the third, which is the theme of this talk today, has to do with decolonizing natural histories. And what this decolonization might mean, or how that might manifest, will, I hope, become evident as I speak to you about the cultivation of crocodile seeds and other slow-release practices for complex times. So this is the slide where I give you a very brief version of a very long history of crocodile seeds, starting with a question: what worlds transpire when colonial violences spark radically different beings to meet? In 1887, a 4.7-meter-long crocodile was shot and donated to the British colonial Singapore Raffles Museum, where it was stuffed with straw. This straw came to life again in 2013, when the crocodile was given a makeover by the chief conservator, Kate Pocklington, at the Singapore Natural History Museum. As the museum were familiar with my research, they offered me a whole mixture of materials from inside the crocodile and also another creature, a tortoise, which is a whole other tale, in order for me to explore them. However, there's another important part of the story, aside from the straw, which concerns a newspaper article, which you can see on the screen here, also found by Pocklington from the Straits Times in 1948, which reports that this very crocodile hosts the spirit of a 19th century migrant Chinese welfare leader, intercultural mystic, and warrior in the wars over the tin mines, turned anti-colonial freedom fighter who, on his execution, was transformed into a crocodile. A series of shrines for this warrior spirit persist among the mangroves and the rivers of Matang in Malaysia, in the state of Perak. And in 2023, I went on a field trip there together with a group of artists, researchers, and historians from Singapore and Malaysia. Along the way, as often happens during field research, the initial crocodile trail and tale of this 19th century anti-colonial hero in turn began to transform, sending out feelers and drawing us through water bodies, mountains, caves, and the devastated landscapes of historic and contemporary mining. I returned to Perak with my Migrant Ecologies film collaborators this year, and the teaser that I'm going to show you at the end of this presentation includes images and sounds from what is an ever-thickening process of storytelling. However, I can't possibly present all our material to you here, so what I'm going to do is focus on the dimension of the research that draws us a little closer to where we are now in Espoo. And this means leaving crocodile spirits and mangroves aside for now, and instead spending time with some crocodile seeds. Since I inherited the materials, I've invited groups of artists to participate in a series of what we call gleaning sessions of the straw that has been sleeping for almost a century inside this crocodile. And here I do want to affirm that I regard everything that I'm talking about today as artistic research. And by that I mean that new knowledge or meaning can both manifest and be transmitted and circulate via artistic and at times non-verbal forms, such as images, sounds, or indeed, as here, bodily gestures and the careful circular turning of hands as we try to glean the straw for seeds. And I'll return to these gestures later on. Over many sessions, the straw slowly revealed a sleeping ecology of cereal and flower seeds. And what we have here from left to right, I've been told I'm not allowed to look there, so I'm just sort of pointing in that direction. Left to right is vetch, possibly bulrush, possibly poppy, not opium, we think. Cornflower, and then a combination of rye and wheat at the very end, and something we're not sure of before that. Dr. Arif Malik at Andrew Lowe's laboratory at the University of Adelaide is helping us to try and understand the origins of these seeds via genetic profiling. And Louise Coville at Kew Gardens has also recently agreed to germinate these seeds. But most importantly, for this presentation to you, after trailing my box of crocodile seeds on windy bus rides from farm to farm in southern Finland, Magnus Selenius and his niece Embla Lindwall, who specialize in the cultivation of ancient varieties of cereals, have offered to try and coax some of these to grow, which is great. As my friends and colleagues, and also Harry, will know, I've been peddling these crocodile seeds for some time now. I have to also say that the project also has had a series of public iterations, including at the Singapore Art Museum and at Svalbard in collaboration with the Global Seed Bank. And, next slide, I don't apologize for sticking with the same project and working with it for a long, slow time. It takes time for layers of story to mulch, and every time I come back to this project, it generates new possibilities. What is more, when it comes to non-human partners in this process, for example, a crocodile, the larger modern group of crocodilians likely first appeared in what is now called Europe up to 145 million years ago. Modern humans only showed up 300,000 years ago. Our seeds work also with a temporality that circles backwards to the parent plant and forwards to root themselves wherever and whenever they decide it's appropriate. And so these incongruous companions, crocodiles and seeds, have very much to tell us about the different understandings of time, space and place, and of understandings that contrast to what, even in human history, are such terribly recent colonizations of our bodies and our minds with the temporalities of capital. Temporalities that demand unlimited growth, and resources and outputs at the tempo of a relentless present. One of the responses to such demands and the demands for unlimited growth and accompanying polycrises as our beautiful planet's resources are extracted is a desire to turn inwards as everything just becomes too much. It's a theme that is also felt in our project as our crocodile trail has led us into caves with crocodile paintings, or as we try to awaken sleeping seeds under the soil, or leave offerings deep in a Svalbard mineshaft, or indeed draw ever more tales from the belly of a creature of the mangroves. This turning inwards is perhaps an apt theme today in December, in the darkest part of the year. And I've been discussing with my students, for example, how a curriculum might be designed so as to embrace winter and what it does to our vertebrate and plant bodies alike, asking for a slowing down, for reflection, for nourishing the alchemy of imagination that only comes with long, deep sleep and darkness. So yes, going into the cave can be a restorative practice and can lead to healing and wisdom. The point is, however, not to do so in order to escape the trouble or stay forever in your millionaire bunker or indeed your academic or artistic echo chamber, but to go inwards just to gain enough resilience to emerge and connect. This is the last slide. I've been asked to end with something like hope. And hope, for me, has also to do with connection. So we're still hoping that something will sprout with Magnus and Embla, and we dream of ending our story with a crazy mutant crocodile meadow. But with also a caution that with such wonders we can neither exercise colonial violence nor domesticate crocodiles. Some of the older varieties of land cereals may even turn out more resilient to climate change, but here another caution, that we're not looking for singular quick fix solutions here. As I'm working, I try to imagine what our non-human partners might ask of us. Perhaps the seas are no longer fertile, or perhaps they don't want to wake up right now. Perhaps they fear plantationocene all over again. For me, I'm both learning to enjoy the winter dark and also okay following Magnus and Embla, inspired by the repetitive gestures of care needed for cultivation of pre-industrial seeds, and also by the gorgeous crocodile seed pots that Manuel Diaz Coutinho from Creative Sustainability crafted out of, amongst other things, our crocodile straw into a form that inverts the original colonial violence experienced by our crocodile into one of care. And so we keep on circling each season, back in the dark, trying more techniques to coach something to emerge, not really knowing what will become, but trusting the process and understanding these gestures themselves, even if laborious and difficult, are perhaps what might be most generative. Such gestures, as I've already argued, could perhaps be called art, could perhaps be called research, and they could perhaps be called love.
Semua bagai lift. Cermur bagai ket. Cerita bagai yen. Cerita bagai pil. Cermur bagai ruai.